I heard a grunt. Ooh, it wasn't a human grunt, sort of like an animal exclaiming. As I gently hurried through the woods, I heard pounding almost louder than my heart's. Heavy footsteps, grunting, groaning. Something was charging me. I ran faster. I got into my car and started it. The noises rustling through the trees grew closer. She lifted up the curtain and revealed to me something I never thought I'd see. I only thought it was possible in fiction. The hair, bulging muscles, sharp piercing sabers that protruded from her mouth. Those fangs were, for one thing, tearing through flesh. Welcome to Horror Stories Animation.
Yes, welcome.
I love my girlfriend with all of my heart. We've been together for about 5 years and lived with each other for 3 as of last August. We met at a zoo, romantically enough, and you could say it was love at first sight. We locked eyes at the silverback enclosure and she smiled at me with pearly white teeth and fluttering eyes. I couldn't help but approach and rizz her up, as the kids say. She was everything a man could dream, beautiful, smart, funny, just amazing in every way. She had dreams one day of being in the circus, which is quirky but kind of suits her. However, she has some quirks that I've started to really take notice of, and I wish I knew then what I know now. When we first started dating, she would never meet me at night, though I tried. Dinner at my place? Sorry, I have work early tomorrow, but we can do brunch. I thought at first that she was just awkward about sex, but we eventually did it and she still never stayed the night. Now that we live together, one would assume we sleep beside each other, right? Nope, complete separate rooms, and she often even goes out at night. That's really where this all started. I assumed she was cheating on me. It doesn't sound too hard to believe, but it's not something you can be so open with. Hey girl, I love and trust with my life and want to marry. Are you betraying my trust and breaking my heart? It doesn't sound too great now, does it? One evening we had a nice romantic dinner. Fresh fruit and steak, and she went out. She always shaves beforehand and after, usually a sign of getting fresh for a date, I read from Reddit. I did the only thing I could imagine. I followed her. She snagged a banana before she left and gave me a kiss. Her teeth poked my cheek as she did so, and quickly she covered her mouth and apologized. I placed a hand on my skin and felt something wet and sticky. Looking at my hand and seeing bright red blood, she hurried to the car, driving off in a flash. I quickly got into mine and followed, trying desperately to stay close but not obviously close. She drove down narrow streets, the moon covered by dark clouds robbing the light from reaching the ground. We got further and further from home until we hit the country. Stark outlines of trees shrouded the road, and it became harder and harder to follow her. The road became windy and thin. The heavy clouds began to lift away from the moon. She took a sharp turn into an old cabin and stopped. I stopped about a quarter mile down and walked to the cabin, expecting to hear plaps and moans from outside. There was nothing. Silence. Spare an odd guttural groan coming from inside. I peeked into the dingy windows, the glass far too dirty to see anything inside. I slowly made my way to the back door, creaking it open. I heard a grunt. Ooh, it wasn't a human grunt, sort of like an animal exclaiming. I didn't think much of it, except for the fact that I wasn't being very quiet. Before I turned around, I heard a crack and a splat. I started to my car, gently closing the door. As I gently hurried through the woods, I heard pounding almost louder than my heart's. Heavy footsteps, grunting, groaning. Something was charging me. I ran faster. I got into my car and started it. The noises rustling through the trees grew closer. I heard a wail like a monster chasing a meal. I drove as fast as I could back home, in the distance hearing roaring through the cold woods. I woke up to hear the shower run. I would usually assume she was washing up after a night with whoever she's sleeping with, but now I had more questions than that. I stood up and waited for her to get out, seeing a sour expression form when I greeted her. "Where do you go when you go out so late?" I interrogated. I told you, with the girls," she stammered, unable to represent her usual confidence. "Really? Out in the woods?" I asked, hands on my hips. I was defiant outwardly, but shitting bricks in my head. "Oh, that was you?" she said, confused. I heard her mumble under her breath, "I thought I knew that smell." "That smell?" I questioned, tilting my head in confusion. My arms rested to my side. No, your car. Look, We were just out camping in Jessica's dad's cabin, she explained. I looked at her with doubt spread across my face and sighed. Okay, I said, turning around and not pushing further. Can you just spend a night with me, though? She groaned. We talked about it. I just don't like sleeping next to people, she let out, turning and sighing. I frowned and didn't push it. She knew I was onto her, but I didn't want to press it further. The day went on as usual, but she didn't come home from work until late evening. When she did, she rushed through the door and turned on the news. It was all over the cycle on every channel. A missing person. She looked mortified. What's wrong, you know him? I asked, sitting next to her on the couch. She stared blankly at the screen for a minute before saying, Yeah, I did, you could say. Her face was grim and struck with horror. I read some patterns in the information. A man lived around the cabin from the night prior, mid-20s, good figure. She found a real good one. Is that who you've been sleeping with, Mara? I asked. She turned her head and looked at me with rage. What? Sleeping with the I stood up and swung out my arms as I shouted. Yes, sleeping with. I know what you're up to, going out late at night like you do? I shouted in tears. She stood up and held my hands. No, I could never. I'm so sorry, she said with watery eyes. Here, it's about time I showed you what's really going on. I need to show you the real me, she said heartfully. She dragged me to the other room by the hand, sniffling and taking a deep breath. Just promise you won't be mad or scared, she said. I nodded. She lifted up the curtain and revealed to me something I never thought I'd see. I only thought it was possible in fiction. The hair, bulging muscles, sharp piercing sabers that protruded from her mouth. Those fangs were, for one thing, tearing through flesh. She grinned sinisterly, starting to howl, before snapping into reality and shutting the curtain. She fell to her knees in pain and tears. I tried to comfort her, trying not to let the shock get to me. I swaddled her body, even though I knew what it held under her. Everything made sense now. We finally did it, though. We slept together in the same bed. And no, not like in a dirty sense. We just laid there in each other's arms and fell asleep. When I woke up, she was gone for work. So that's where I am now. Tomorrow is Halloween, where something like this could turn into an even larger issue. What with the veil of the spirit world being lifted and what have you. What I saw last night was horrifying, and I don't know how to proceed. Is she going to kill me? I know she killed that man. Could it be me next? I'm giving her everything to keep her satisfied with fresh meat and bananas tonight, but I must ask, has anyone else's girlfriend revealed themselves to turn into a silverback gorilla under moonlight? What can I do? Can I marry a silverback gorilla woman?